runs facts, and then she uses that ash to create a perfect smoky eye.
All right, joining us now is former political director for George W. Bush, Matt Schlapp. He and his wife, Mercedes, who is the communications advisor to the president, walked out of the dinner. Good morning, Matt.
Great to be with you, Allison.
What moment was it that caused you to get up and walk out?
Well, I think when she was just continuing to pummel Sarah, it just got more and more uncomfortable. This is my wife's colleague. You can like or not like Sarah. You can like or not like her politics. It just seemed mean-spirited. Everybody around me was groaning. I was the host of Politico. The host of the tables eventually apologized to me for having us at their table. They felt it was cringeworthy. But for me, the worst part, I have to say, it's kind of one of these things where you're sitting there watching it, this kind of train wreck happen. I think the jokes about abortion for my wife and I were particularly just galling. It was shocking. It's like, don't knock it till you try it. Everyone should at least have one. You got to get the baby out. I mean, it was just repulsive. It's not funny. I mean, you can have your views on abortion, but I don't think anybody thinks it's funny. And I think she just was someone who went over like a lead balloon. And, of course, she did seem to have political animus against those of us who are conservatives.
Well,
and look, she has a right to do what she did. She has a First Amendment right.
Yep.
That's perfectly the American way. And I have the right to say, I don't need to listen to this crap.
For sure. For sure. But I just want to, on that second note, you tweeted, my wife, Mercedes Schlapp, and I walked out early from the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Enough of elites mocking us.
Right.
That part confuses me because she went after Hillary Clinton. She went after Jake Tapper. She went after Ted Kennedy. She went after Starbucks. She went after CNN. She went after Megyn Kelly. What part was elitist?
I don't know if you were there, Allison, but there was nobody who watched her monologue who would think it was somehow balanced from an ideological point of view. And if
but why not? I've just pointed out
to
you that it wasn't just she wasn't just going after known conservatives.
No, her monologue was dead focused on mocking people like Kellyanne Conway and Sarah Huckabee and anybody who has a conservative view on abortion.
Clinton and CNN. I mean, maybe you're being overly sensitive.
No. Look, she might have mentioned them in her talk. She mentioned Jim Acosta in her talk. But there was no question. The reason why the White House Correspondents' Dinner is disassociating itself or distancing itself, as you said, from this comedian. And almost every journalist I respect sent a tweet out over the weekend saying that this was a low moment for the dinner and they felt shame for what happened there. I don't think it's fair to now say, with all of those eminent journalists, that somehow this was an attack on everybody. It wasn't, and nobody in that room felt that way.
Well, I'm just telling you the jokes that she made. I mean, I read it, okay? So I went through it and read it. And obviously,
and I watched it.
Right. And when you read it and you watch it, there's different impressions, for sure. But I'm just saying that she seemed to be an equal opportunity make funner of.
Well, I'll just say this, Allison. Andrea Mitchell and all these other wonderful, even Mika Brzezinski came out and disassociated herself from it, and she's not exactly a Trump fan. The dominant members of the media came out. Look, when I went to the party afterwards, I had people walking up to me and apologizing, just saying, this is not the way we wanted the dinner to come across. You know what's ironic, Allison?
Yeah.
The White House press corps had its moment to really look graceful because the president was a little guy who wasn't willing to come to the dinner and take the shots.
Yeah.
And instead, they made his decision to skip the dinner look like it was the best political decision ever. And they really missed their opportunity. They say it's about the First Amendment and all these values. Instead, they just went into the gutter. And I just didn't need to listen to it.
The journalists who are involved with the White House Correspondents Association said that they didn't know what she was going to say. In the interest of giving a comedian free rein and letting her have her creative expression, they didn't tell her what she could and couldn't say.
You know, Allison, a little bit of me has sympathy for them. You know, I put on CPAC every year with our board, and, I don't always make the right decisions on invitations. It's not an easy thing to do, so I give them grace for that. And I also applaud them for the fact that when it bombs and when it's off target and when it's mean, when you're trying to be funny, it's the right thing to do is to stand up and take ownership for it. So I give them credit for doing that, and I think they have there's a real moment to figure out whether this dinner is serving a purpose or not, and it gives them a chance to think about that.
And so, Matt, what part was it about the jokes, the few jokes about Sarah Sanders? Did you think that the comedian was going after Sarah Sanders' looks?
I thought the smoky eye thing, definitely. There was this whole conversation about bringing a makeup artist into the White House, and there has always been sometimes an obvious and sometimes a subtle reference to Sarah's appearance, and I felt like that was beyond the pale. I also think when it just says she lies, she lies, she lies. Now look, we have big political disagreements in this country, and I think it's wrong for journalists to take that next step. And granted, she's a comedian, but plenty of journalists do it as well, is they take the next step. Just present the facts. Let the American people decide if they think someone's lying. And the journalist shouldn't be the one to say that the president or that his spokesperson is lying, because what that does to 50% of the country is it makes them feel like they're not credible to listen to anymore.
I understand that debate. Obviously, we're fact-based, so when the president, when free, or he doesn't stick to the facts, we do have to call that out. But in terms of the going after Sarah Sanders' looks, I just want to ask you, did you feel the same way when President Trump said in an interview with Rolling Stone, look at that face? Would anyone vote for that? Can you imagine that? The face of our next president? The laughter grows faint behind him. I mean, she's a woman, and I'm not supposed to say bad things, but really, folks, come on. Are we serious? That was about Carly Fiorina.
Yeah, look, I was on your show throughout the campaign, and we talked about these moments with the beauty pageant and with the judge and with Carly, who's a friend of mine. And I feel like the president is at his worst when he talks about certainly a woman's looks or someone's physical appearance. If he'd stick on the agenda, he'd do much better.
Fair.
The dinner wasn't about him.
But did you
the dinner
speak
was
out?
About Sarah. The dinner was about Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Wait, we're not done with that, Matt. Would you have walked out of the president's speech if he said that about Carly Fiorina?
I don't know. As I said, the thing that was the most appalling to me at this dinner was joking about the killing of unborn children, which I don't find funny. I don't think anybody finds that funny.
I understand.
This comedian, it wasn't just about Trump. It was about her mocking the values of a lot of Americans across this country and a lot of conservatives.
There's been a lot of focus on her, whatever she said about Sarah Sanders. Some people didn't interpret it as going after
Almost
Sarah
everybody
Sanders'
did.
look. Some people, I hear you.
Yep.
For sure. But some people have said that, no, it was actually about her character and the character of this Aunt Lydia. But what about this? I just want to remind you, because I just want to check your comedy meter, okay?
Sure.
Matt, so this moment that President Trump has always said was a joke when he mocked a disabled reporter. Let's watch this.
Right after a couple of good paragraphs, and it's talking about New Jersey draws the prober's eye. Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember.
Should the people behind him have walked out?
I don't think it's clear to this day what he meant by doing that.
You don't think that he was mocking a disabled reporter?
I've seen, look, we have spent 2 years going through all the tape of all the things Donald Trump has done.
Yeah.
And I understand that there's a point of view that this man is the worst guy in the world. I get
just
that.
asking if you're offended by that joke. Are you offended by that joke?
But what you're trying to say is that because maybe the president has been over the line, that it's fine for the White House press corps to be over the line.
I
think that's the wrong way to look at it.
Matt, I'm asking your
I've
impression.
heard the president
Are you only
explain-
offended when it's a comedian at the White House Correspondents' Center, but not at what the president says are these sort of uncomfortable, cringeworthy jokes?
I think that the impression that the president was trying to make fun of the man physically it could be a stretch. I don't know what he was doing. I've seen the president do this kind of motion.
You didn't think that was the president making fun of the reporter's movements, the reporter's body language?
Allison, I don't know, but we've spent 2 years. I've seen that clip probably 1,000 times.
Yeah?
And I know the inference is to try to say that the president did that to make fun of this man's physical maladies. If that's why he did it, Allison, then it's wrong and it's reprehensible. I don't think that was what people felt like he did. And look, you guys have prosecuted this case against Trump for
Matt,
2 years.
I'm saying that
for 2 years.
You're
I've
giving the
watched
president
this.
a huge benefit of the
No, I'm
doubt
not.
here, but you're not giving this comedian a benefit of the doubt. So
Do you
I'm
have
just
any
gauging your
doubt? Do you have
comedy
any
meter.
doubt in your mind that there's a difference between an elected official sitting up there at a dinner, having to take the tough shots,
Yes,
and a staffer,
there is a huge difference between what
who
the
has a lot of
president
courage
of
to
the
sit up there,
United States says and the bar we set for him versus a says and the.
You and Chris talk about this all morning. I get that. But if you're going to act like there's a moral superiority, which many people in that dinner did, they act like they're better. They act like they're the truth tellers.
Shouldn't
when they
the
say it's about
president be better than a
let me
comedian?
finish, though. Let me finish. When you say it's about the First Amendment and somehow reporters are keeping the president honest, you said in this interview, oh, but we have to do the truth-o-meter. We have to say when he's wrong.
Yeah.
Then I just say to all of you who are going to take that moral high ground, you better be straight to the American people that there is a political animus against this president. This president is very imperfect.
Look, you know
We've talked about it for 2 years.
Hold on one second.
For 2 years, I have taken all the tough questions.
The president is always made fun of.
Allison, I've taken all the tough questions for you.
Democrat, Republican, they're always made fun of. They're roasted at this dinner.
No,
that's
not
happens.
right.
It is right.
No, I go to this
probably
dinner.
18 of these. The president is always roasted. Barack Obama was roasted. George W. Bush was roasted.
Let me just
always.
help.
But I'm just asking about your consistency.
Okay.
Your consistency. And
I've been on your show for a long time. I'll take all these questions. I've answered all the questions.
And do you just here's my last question. Do you think the president of the United States should be held to a different standard with what he says in public than with what a Daily Show comedian?
A much higher standard. A much higher standard. And by the way, all of us should be held to a high standard. And when people cross the line and do things that are repulsive and disgusting, like make fun of abortion at a big dinner, I don't think we should laugh about it, and we should call it out.
Sure.
And by the way, Allison, you should too. I called it out. Andrea Mitchell called it out. Mika Brzezinski called it out. The head of the Washington Correspondents Association called it out. Call it out.
Sure.
Just say, look, this was over the line.
Hey, listen, Matt, we've been talking about it all morning and what people's comfort level are. But what I'm asking you is if
Will
you're
you call it out?
Hey, Matt, I asked the questions here. What I'm asking you is why aren't you calling out making fun of a disabled reporter?
If I say it again, we shouldn't make fun of people who are disabled. If that was the intent of what the president did, he shouldn't have done it. I've said on your show a million times, he is at his best when he fights on the policy agenda, because the policy agenda is what the American people are rooting him on for. They're seeing a difference in the economy. They're seeing a difference in their lives. When it's not about that, it gets worse. But for the president also, he is mocked more than anybody on the face of the earth. And it's also okay for him to defend himself.
Sure.
And I'm
Matt,
okay
that's
with
fine,
that.
But I'm saying that dinner, that he didn't get any sort of special treatment at that dinner. I've heard all sorts of presidents on both sides of the aisle be mocked.
It's
yes,
not
it is,
right.
Matt. That's what the comedians do.
No, we know this. Look, as a conservative, let me just say this. I'll get it off my chest fast. As a conservative, if you're going to go to a Washington dinner, you know you're going to get mocked. We knew we were going to get mocked that night. We can handle being mocked. This was beyond being mocked. This is mean-spirited. This is jokes about things like abortion, things that our society really just finds repugnant. And America found it repugnant, and most journalists found it repugnant. And I think it's a good thing that they found it so.
Yep. Yeah, Matt, listen, it's totally your prerogative to get up and walk out, but it's just taking your temperature on all of these things.
Would you have walked out with me?
No, I would not have walked out. I don't think that abortion jokes are funny, but I would not have walked out. I definitely thought that there were cringeworthy moments, and everybody has their own comfort level. So I thought that it was interesting to check. You know, listen, your wife, Mercedes, she represents the White House. You obviously are an ardent supporter of the president, so I think that it's valuable to hear what your breaking point or where you are on the comedy spectrum with when people say things that are really uncomfortable, including the president. But Matt, listen, thank you.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for being here.
Okay.
Chris.
I mean, you got to be kidding me. Not you. Everything you're saying is the right way, and I would tell you otherwise. But it is such obvious hypocrisy. How Matt Schlapp or any of these people can defend what the president did with his mannerisms. This is just one example. I could give you dozens.
Well, he wasn't defending it.
We could blow right into Berman and Poppy's show.
He doesn't know how to interpret that. He wasn't defending it. And he was saying if the president was, in fact, doing what it appears that he's doing, he would not support it. So just
what I'm saying is this. When our partisan politics have gotten to the point where Schlapp will defend that and say, well, I'm not really sure what he meant. And, sometimes he goes over the line. And, so yes, and the president gets called out for that. Please, if you are going to mitigate what the most powerful man in the world says, and he's being dead serious, he's trying to divide people when he says these things. He's trying to play the base that Schlapp so protectively covets. And then you're going to get this upset about a comedian?
Is Matt still there?
If you like the jokes or you don't like the jokes, that's one thing.
I just feel like that Matt has to respond to that.
I'm here.
Okay, so.
Yes.
I mean, Matt,
I'm here. Chris, come on.
I'm listening to you, Matt, but here's my take on it, and I got to tell you.
I just heard your take. I heard it.
But you have to defend that. You can't give the president the benefit of the doubt on everything. You don't know what he meant to do when he made that mannerism. Please, if it were about your kid or your wife, you would probably change party stripes over it. But you're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But this comedian, you're going to say, oh, this was way too far. We need to all stand up against it and walk out.
Chris, I never said that. I asked Allison if she'd walk out with me. I made a decision, my wife and I together made a decision that it was too much. We didn't know how much longer
That's
she
your
was going to
choice.
go on.
You're
and we
free to
got
make
up
it.
and left. We weren't sitting at the front table. We didn't make a ruckus. We just simply got up and left. It was simply a personal decision because it
I'm
was
fine
too
with
much
that.
for us.
Good for
and
you.
by the way, if the president or any other politician, actually, if there are Americans who feel hurt by what they say, and it's inappropriate, I don't think that's a good thing either. I don't think it's good for us to attack people like this. But I think you guys do a splendid job of making the case against when the president is over the line all the time, right? And
You don't have
you
to make
invite
a
me on,
case.
which I
When he
appreciate.
openly
But
mocks
what
someone
about
with
when,
disabilities,
but what about
the front table
when the
to make a
press
case?
corps?
There's no open question.
But what about when the press corps is over the line? In this case, the White House Press Corps Association.
They weren't the ones telling the jokes.
Admitted that there was a mistake to invite this
So you
comedian.
call it out.
And I
Yeah,
think,
they admitted it. I mean, if
and
they
you
did
two
that,
should
make
admit
your
it as
point,
well.
Matt.
You two should embrace that. And
We
say,
did it
look,
all morning. We've been talking about it. We did 3 segments.
I've watched you, but why is it hypocrisy for me to also say
Because
that
you're
what
not
the
as
comedians-
upset about what the President of the United States says on a regular basis, and he's not joking. So if you're going to care about a comedian and be so offended by jokes that you may think failed or didn't fail, it's everybody's right to feel different ways about it.
Because
but where is it there?
Because
Matt?
you feel
Where's the
like
selective
Donald Trump.
outrage?
Because you feel like Donald Trump is over the line, right? Those of us
I
who
don't
support
feel
him,
he's over the
those
line.
of us-
He is over the line, and you
those-
know it, Matt. You would
those of
never
us-
tolerate it in somebody who wasn't aligned with
Go
your
through the
political
tapes.
interests.
Go through the tapes of for the 2 years I've been on this show. We have walked through all of these questions. They have been well covered. I've given all the answers. I've
Yeah,
done
I get
none
it.
of your
But you're
questions.
not walking out on the president in terms of when he makes fun of Carly Fier in his face or when he makes fun of a disabled reporter.
I
You're
wasn't
not
in the
walking out
room.
on the president.
You
I
never
wasn't in the
use
room. If he
language.
had
You don't have to be in the room to know how the president meant. See, that's what I'm talking about, Matt. I wasn't in the room. I have said things. No, you never say anything about the president like what you're saying about this
It's
comedian.
untrue.
And you
I've
know
been on
that.
your show.
You
run the tape.
I do. You
When-
get plenty
go
upset
through
at
all the-
Allison and me for asking you the questions and calling you on things that are obviously inconsistent.
I'm
But
not
you've
mad at
never
you.
been in high dudgeon like you are this morning about anything the president has said.
I've been on whatever that term meant. I've been in
High
that state
dudgeon?
of, I've been in that state of mind
Google
many
away, my
times
brother.
on your show.
Information is power.
Look, Chris, here's the thing. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. This was a moment when the White House press corps actually could have done something to look graceful and to make the American people say, I get it. They're doing their jobs and they're doing it squarely.
The American people
Instead,
do know
the American people believe that there is too often animus on the part of the press.
Of course,
and
there's
that they
animus.
have
The
it in
president
for
of the
Trump,
United States says
and they have
that
it in for
journalists
Trump. They have it in for
The
And many
President of the
times-
United States says the
Come
media
on.
is your enemy. The
Come
President
on.
of the United
What do you mean,
States
come on, Matt?
says
He
that
has
everything
said those
that's
things.
reported is a lie if he doesn't like it.
Matt, he
what are you
has said
talking
those
things.
about, Matt?
Come on. I don't buy into any of that. I don't
What
think
did I
that's
just
correct.
say that isn't true?
He
What
said
did
that
I
all
just say that
all
he hasn't
reporters
said?
should be in jail? Come on.
No, he just said in the Comey book, in one of the memos and the reflected, literature in that book, or whatever you want to call it, it's a whole other discussion, that maybe we should go back to putting journalists in jail. That'll teach you about leaks. He didn't say that?
Chris, do you think it's good to make fun of abortion? Did
Hold
that
on.
offend you?
Just hold on. Let's go one step at a time. Look,
But I mean,
I'm a
you're-
practicing Catholic. You know that I have my own feelings personally about what's right and what's wrong, but I'm a journalist, and you're open to everybody's views. And if a joke is good, it's good.
Yeah.
If it's bad, it's bad.
But it
It's
wasn't so
subjective.
good, was
But
it?
hold
It
on.
wasn't so
hold
good.
on. The president didn't say that putting journalists in jail may help stop the leaks? Did he say it or no?
I don't know.
You know he did. See, that's what I'm saying, Matt. You play with this selective curiosity, selective
so look,
outrage.
so let me just answer the question. Do I think journalists should go to jail for reporting leaks?
Right.
No.
I don't care
Do
what
I
you think.
think
Do you think
people
the
in
president should
government
say it?
Out about
Do I
that?
think
That's the
people in government should go to jail if they break the law? Yes. If the
Yeah.
president said that journalists should go to jail for printing leaks,
did say
I
it.
would tell him I disagree with him.
Okay, feel free.
We
But
did
see,
this
that's
with
the
John
thing. Tell him
Adams.
that.
in
You
the
don't say
Alien
that the
and Sedition
comedian,
Act.
you disagree with the comedian. You don't say
I
that.
do.
You say, I had to walk out. It's terrible. It
I
shows
didn't
America
have to
this and it
walk
shows
out.
America that.
I didn't
But you
have
don't
to
feel
walk
that
out.
about Trump. And that's why the needle doesn't move. The reason
Chris,
the base isn't
you-
growing, Matt
you do-
Schlapp, is what you're saying right now.
But
the
Chris,
base
what you
isn't
do-
growing because you are not open to anything that you don't agree
Then why
with.
am I on your show?
Because you
Why
want the
am I here?
platform, and we reward you for that. And when you come on and
That's
you get
a
to make
very
your case,
mean thing
but
to
it doesn't
say.
mean we have to accept
That's a
it when it
very
doesn't
mean
line
thing
up
to
with the
say.
facts.
If you looked at the social media after I come on your show, it's very mean-spirited. I'm sure you all get it as well.
Yeah.
I'm not growing a platform by platform by coming on your show. I'm coming on your show because I believe in my heart that if we can't talk to each other, yes, I'm a conservative, but if we can't talk to each other on these platforms, our democracy is doomed. If the White House Correspondents' Dinner can't have a fun nature with both Republicans and Democrats, make fun of Pelosi, make fun of Trump, and show that the American people, you can have political disagreements, yet you can come together and still laugh a little bit. Organization CPAC does nothing but bring on conservatives and only talk to conservatives.
That is what you do.
We are doomed.
That is what you do. You had people up on stage mocking. You had people up on stage mocking me openly as if I'm some kind of enemy. You never came on and apologized to me. You never sent me a note. I don't know what you're talking about. You know damn well what I'm talking about.
I do not know what you're talking about.
But I'm not the news. I'm not what matters. You are deciding what matters and what doesn't, Matt. We have you on this show as an embrace of democracy. If we censored people's opinions, that would be different. You're allowed to be on this show whenever you want, even though we get beat up. That's why Allison got off Twitter, because she didn't want to deal with it full time.
And I invite you every year through CNN, and you're invited again. Come to CPAC. I'll let you speak.
But Matt,
and I think that that's important.
Matt,
that we
this is what I'm saying. Allison conducted a very fair interview with you. She gave you points of pushback for what happened with the comedian. She went after a lot of people, including CNN people. She scolded the media for how we dealt with covering Trump, some of us. The comedian did. And that was all, they're all fair points. And they were good reminders. But let me tell you, your outrage at her
nobody
is not
in America
matched.
thinks that was a balanced treatment politically.
Oh, that's fine. And you may be right.
Right, but it doesn't have to be. A comedian doesn't have to be.
That's right.
Okay, 90-10, whatever.
But look, you're okay. It's okay for you to be upset about it. Here's what's not okay.
I'm not upset. I just felt like it was rude.
Oh, you
and
clearly
I didn't
were. You walked out. You made sure everybody knew why you were walking out.
True.
They were pick up about it all over the place. I was reading about it at home.
Chris, I did not handle myself that way. You weren't there. You know how it was reported. See, that doesn't mean it was right. Come on, this is our problem.
Well,
just because something is reported,
but you did walk out, right?
Yeah, but he didn't storm out, is what he's saying.
I didn't storm out. I said
you stormed out. I said you got up and you left, and you let people know why. Is that all true?
I did not tell people why. I tweeted later in the car because my wife and I were in our car, and we were like, really, that was despicable.
Right, so then you did tell people why. So what I just said is 100% accurate. That's not my point. My point is this. If you want kumbaya and you want people to come together, it's not going to happen because there's a lot of division. But there is common ground. But I'll tell you what corrupts the common ground. I'll tell you what corrupts the initiative to take action on what matters to the American people, which is about 80% of the issues, right? You guys spend time on the 20. Why? Because division sells. It sells for partisans. We get that.
It sells for you, Chris.
But let me tell you.
It sells for you.
Well, let me tell you, it's a mixed blessing having to go after this stuff all the time. Let me tell you, I'm living that reality. So is Allison. But I'll tell you this. When you come on and you're upset about this comedian, the way you are right now, that's your right and it's fair. But you do not match that in any way when it comes to the president and his actions. I watched you in this interview say you're not sure what the president meant when he was clearly mocking the exact disability of the reporter that he was talking about.
That's not right, because you can pull hundreds of clips where he does the very same mannerisms.
That way.
I've seen him do that mannerism.
I've seen the lame defenses.
This is a man
who says ugly and divisive things on a regular basis. At that same rally in Michigan,
Chris, what you're trying to do is pick out the flaws of Trump to make a larger point.
I'm trying to say that you should be equally outraged.
That what you also need to listen to is that there are a lot of Americans out there who, when they watch your show or when they watch other shows on television, they feel like they feel like there is a desire to get Trump, that you don't like Trump, that you're trying to hold Trump down, that you're not holding the other side to the same standard.
I know that's because people like you are telling them that, Matt.
No,
because you're telling them that at your little CPAC event, and when you go
down that you're
to people, you're saying the president of Michigan said they hate you. The media hates you. Are you outraged by that, Matt?
I felt like at that dinner that people
no,
who
not
have
the
a
dinner.
conservative
When the president said
are you gonna
to the
let
audience,
me answer?
No, I'm not. When the president said to the
great.
audience, the media hates you. How'd you feel about that? Because I didn't hear it in your interview with Allison.
Okay, so Chris, as a conservative, I do feel like there is a dominant piece of the media that hates our point of view on issues. I do.
That's not what he said.
When she mocked abortion, the room laughed. The room laughed. I couldn't believe anybody could laugh.
I wasn't there, but it sounded like that one did
not
go over well.
There were groans too, Allison. There were groans too. But you all have to admit, you guys work in the media. You look at your colleagues. How do you think they voted in the last election? You know that they didn't vote a majority for Trump. they were probably with Hillary. This is just a fact. The whole dinner started off.
Even if it were true, it doesn't mean that there's an animus.
It is true.
It doesn't mean that there's an animus.
It doesn't mean that it has to affect their reporting. I agree.
That's
but I think a lot of Americans believe that it can. And I think when Margaret started off the dinner by saying, we all know that our president said it took a village, there was a lot of laughter because there's a common look. The conservatives and the liberals and the Republicans and the Democrats in that room know that that's a favorable
There's nothing
room for
conservative
Democrats.
about mocking disabilities, about mocking immigrants, about mocking what character and family is about, and respect for your spouse and women. There's nothing conservative about any of those things.
See, but you have
and
a
you guys have
moral-
decided to swallow it because it plays to political advantage.
You make
and
a moral.
That's the truth.
You make a moral judgment against Trump.
I make
and
no
that is
moral
why
judgments.
people don't feel. That's
I
what
make
you
none.
just did.
I make none.
That's
I'm
what
saying
that
those are
statement
not
was.
those are conservative bedrock. You
Those
guys
are-
used to
you
make
made
those
it-
issues your signature, and now you ignore them all for political expedience.
That is not true.
That's my
That
point.
is not. That is not true. What
Well, then
Trump
you come
is-
on this show and you be outraged about some of the things that he says that check those boxes that used to make you sick about Bill
Chris,
Clinton.
I did your show for 2 years, and you asked me all questions in the campaign.
Yeah, and you would
now
tap
you're
dance and soft
assuming
sell.
my answers are different than what they were. And the fact is this: what Donald Trump is doing as president is very much standing up for those values. He's done more to do things for the conservative movement than we've seen in a generation. And I have to stand up and try to help him get that done. I believe in what he's trying to do. I understand that you think that personally you find him morally reprehensible.
This
a lot
is
of
not
us don't
true.
find
You're
that.
You're putting words in
We
our
don't-
mouths to once again feed a narrative, but we got to go. We have other people to talk to this morning.
Matt, thank you
Allison,
for the Matt Marathon.
My Lord.
Yeah, well, Matt,
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming on and talking
Thanks for
to us.
having me on.
Thank you for being here.
Okay.